Mr. Lukey Bell, welcome to Damnation Versus. How are you?
Hey there, Gav. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Much better for having you on. It's been a long time since I've seen you, pal.
Like I said when you texted me yesterday about doing it, I said you finally reached the bottom of the barrel. Thanks, bud.
started calling in the favours. Which is ironic. You'll probably get more to say than most folk, to be honest. So I'm going to have a quick rundown of your CV for listeners who might not know who Luke Bell is. So here we are. You were the singer of Panic Cell. You've promoted pools for the likes of Soil, American Head Charge, El Nino, Drowning Pool. You tour managed Skindred, Life Agony, The Pretty Reckless. You were the production coordinator for Red Hot Chili Peppers and Florence and the Machine. And most recently, before the shit hit the fan across the world, you were the tour manager for Machine Head.
That's correct.
Is that a pretty succint rundown?
That's pretty much. Obviously, there are plenty of other bands I tour managed in the past. Hell Yeah. I did those guys. The honour of working with Vinny and Chad and those guys for a while. The boys from Heaven's Basement. I did a year with them. And obviously going on with the links from Life of Agony, I tour managed Sal and Johnny, who were the two drummers in Typo Negative. But they had a band called A Pale Horse Named Death, which I think you guys had at the festival last year.
2019, absolutely. They were absolutely fantastic, guys. One of those bands that before they show up, you hear of they're going to be drama queens. I mean, these guys have been in Typo Negative and Life Agony.
They're not.
The nicest guys. I mean, they gave me a T-shirt. They've done a video about playing the festival. They fucking loved it. They did. They were really great.
Because obviously I was working with their manager and their agent and them, I should say, because they managed themselves. So I was working with them and their agent to get things set up. They basically booked everything around playing your festival. That was like the primary thing they wanted to do. That gig was by far and away the most important thing for them. Out of they love doing their headline shows, but they knew how important Damnation was for their kind of music. I mean, it's the perfect thing for them. They
went down a storm. The room was packed for them, and I was so glad. I mean, I've talked a lot in this podcast about the sort of tour managers and bands being arseholes, and sometimes you get a band where they've been in a bigger band, and that can be a real issue. But they guys were absolute gentlemen, and you played a big part in them coming that year, because you'd sort of flagged it up, and then Rick and I reached out to you and said, well, what am I dealing with here? And you were like, no, the guys will be good. And true to your word, as always, the guys were absolutely brilliant. So before we get properly into it, I want to, first and foremost, the most important thing, your health. It says a lot about you in this industry that I found out that you had COVID-19 on Machine Head's again Facebook feed. Rob Flynn was posting about you having, so obviously that was in March. You beat it. How are you and Penny now? Everybody good?
Yeah, we're all good. I mean, Penny hasn't really shown any signs of it. You had a test and you were negative, weren't you? So, but I definitely had it. Everyone got ill on that Machine Head tour. We played a show in New York in February. And a week later, there was 21 of us on that tour, band and crew. Everyone was sick, one way or another, like either a little bit or really ill. And it didn't seem to differentiate. Like, some of the fittest guys on the tour, which are Rob, because he keeps himself in good shape, and also Logan, who's in exceptional shape, were two of the guys that got the most ill while we were out there. Right. So it wasn't like, fat boy here. It wasn't just, me being fucking 50 pounds overweight that it caused problems for.
Yeah.
And I battled through it on the tour. You just get through it. And I got home and just had a couple of weeks off. And then it came back and I couldn't breathe. I went to the local A&E and it was just horrible. It brought on pneumonia. And, they admitted me to hospital for 4 days. I was in this COVID ward with 7 other guys. 2 of them died while I was in there. You see all these people talk about it being a hoax. It's rubbish. It's fucking. I'm telling you now. All right, I've had it, and for those people that get it, I've seen it kill them. It's really unpleasant.
It's really sad. It's strange. The gardeners were at the door yesterday, and they were giving me that hoax shit in the 5G masts, and it was fucking George Bush that flew the 2 planes into the 9/11.
Yeah.
The Twin Towers. Now, it's bad because it's kind of seeped into the fabric of society. Everybody's so angry with the world, they're just looking at conspiracies now. And it's like, I'm a newspaper editor, so we know people, we've spoken to families who have lost
you live for some of that shit. Yeah, you live for some of that.
So
papers.
No, that's not what I mean. Don't be like that. No, what I mean is, I'm not buying into this shit because I have seen it firsthand. My journalists have seen it firsthand, and obviously you're another example of it's real. It's fucking real. If you're an idiot that you're listening to this podcast and you think that this is a hoax so somebody can sell a vaccine or it's a 5G mast, you're a fucking idiot. Okay, so.
I had the argument with a guy the other day. He was going on about the whole vaccine, putting a chip in you. I just fucking put my phone up at him. I was like, mate, we're all carrying one around already. They know where the fuck we are. Look, we can't put it away.
Is that idea that that's what they need to trace us? That's what, like, we are walking around with phones, we're checking in at airports, we are fucking updating our Twitter every 5 minutes. They don't need to plant a chip in you. You're walking around with your chip, you clown. So this isn't a podcast about COVID-19.
Sorry, yeah. No, we can move on. But it was bad. So it took me a few weeks to get over it. Once they gave me a treatment of some serious antibiotics, get rid of the pneumonia. 3 weeks at home, just with no energy. But then I got better. So
good. Well, I'm delighted to hear it. Delighted to hear it, big man. You're looking well, and I'm glad to see you. So there's a million points where you could start in a podcast with you because you've done everything at every different angle. So let's try and be chronological, and let's start at the start. There'll be people listening to this that want to hear about the Panic Cell side of things. So let's start with Panic Cell. You guys really had a stab at it back in the day. I mean, you were heavy rotation in Scuzz, you were in Kerrang, you played fucking massive tours with massive bands. Tell me a bit about that period in your life when you were the front man of Panic Cell.
Yeah, well, me and the rest of the guys in the band, we'd been in bands together before. And then we'd taken a break from it. I got married, had kids. But then we all got back together in 2003, I think. Everyone decided to just, start a band again because we wanted to have fun. But we took it a little bit more seriously that time. But obviously, things have moved on. Video channels were a big thing. Like you say, Scuzz was huge for Panic Cell. We were really lucky in that I was good friends with a guy called Ray Moody. And still am. I love Ray. He's a brilliant guy. Works in the film industry. So, we needed videos. We recorded the album. We knew we needed videos. Ray did them for us for basically nothing. Him and his friends came over, just like a project for them. It was cool. But that's what helped us doing Save Me. I think that video was on rotation in Scuzz for 26 weeks.
It felt it.
Yeah.
It was always there.
Yeah, they sent us like weekly charts of where we were in rotation terms compared to the others, and we 1 week we were beating Duality by Slipknot and Nemo by what's that band? Female singer. Always played Bloodstock. What's that? Nightwish. That's it. Nightwish. And we were topping them. It was ridiculous, But Scuzz was a real help to the band. And the guys and girls that worked at Scuzz, so supportive. Alex and the guys there, they were fantastic to us. So that was a big thing for us to get that. I mean, it was down to, it was like everything. It was down to a certain amount of luck and a certain amount of hard work.
Yeah,
it's like everything is. Nothing's ever going to be easy for anyone, especially not in the music business. We were just lucky we had friends that would help us out, and we worked hard, trying to make write good songs. And yeah, I mean, it was not like we were groundbreaking. I mean, Panic Cell were, I remember one of the very first reviews we got about our first album. There's a guy constantly going on the fact that we weren't the Mars Volta. It's like, yeah, we know we're not the fucking Mars Volta. Yeah, we can't be the Mars Volta. Much as like we like the Mars Volta, but it was a ridiculous review because all he was doing was just basically saying, well, they need to be more like the Mars Volta because they're good and Panic Cell aren't good. It's like, what the fuck are you on about? So we're a meat and potatoes metal band, we just have fun doing playing loud music. It was cool. I mean, we did 3 albums for Panic Cell. It worked between 2003 and 2011. And of course, we played Damnation, 2007 and 2010?
2007, 2010. Well, let's pitch into that bit then. So you guys were going to play. You and I, you've kind of been you're like my fucking metal godfather. I mean, like, there's no part of my career that you haven't been heavily involved in, the good bits and the bad bits.
You're talking about the Alma Inn in Bolton now, my friend. Yeah.
The Alma Inn in Bolton, I mean, that's on my list of questions. We're going to get to the Alma Inn. So by 2004, going into 2005, and I'm thinking about starting this event called Damnation, Panic Cell were the first band ever booked for you guys in 4 Week.
We were.
The first two bands ever booked. And then this speaks to the kind of guy you are. You got offered the Disturbed tour. Yep. And you'd known me for all of 10 minutes. And you took the time out to phone me and basically say, listen, I'm screwed here. The band have got this huge... But I mean, everybody else would have ditched Damnation. I mean, it hadn't even happened yet. Would have ditched it in a heartbeat. But you obviously reached out. You didn't want to ship the festival that way. And you wanted to explain to me why. So that said a lot about you. So you couldn't do 2005. You did come back 2007. You've done 2010, both of those. I mean, did you have I think you had a right good gig, both of them. You had cracking crowds.
I mean, 2007 was possibly the most rock and roll day I've ever had.
Right.
That is my ultimate. If anyone wants to hear a rock and roll story from me, it is Damnation 2007.
Well, tell us.
So, right, okay, I might need Penny to leave the room, because okay. Oh, have I told you the story before? Oh, how brazen of me. Okay, so. 2007 Damnation, we played kind of somewhere mid-afternoon, I think, or late afternoon. It was at the older university site.
Leeds Met, the one with
Leeds Met. Yeah. After we finished playing, because obviously we in the set, we had the Jägermeister, hand it out and drink it. So even during the gig, I was I was starting to get, and I just carried on after that. And there was a girl in the front row that she was lovely. Wouldn't leave me alone, which was fine. I was young, free and single then, so it was cool.
Yeah.
And in the end, we decided to go back to her hotel a few hours after we'd finished the gig. But she'd come with her friend. So she went and found her. I'm not going to name any names.
Please don't.
No. But she'd come to the Damnation with her friend. So she's like, I'll just let my friend know. We'll go and find her and let her know that we're going off, so she's not wondering where I am. So we go and find the friend. The friend's like, well, I don't want to stay here if you guys are going. I'll come with you. And I was like, no, we're going back to the hotel. She's like, that's fine. I'll come. And like they both looked at me. I was like, all right, fair enough. So we carried on drinking, went back to the hotel, carrying on drinking there, got in the room, do what 3 consenting adults would do in the hotel.
I wouldn't know, but it sounds great.
In the middle of all this, I mean, right, literally right in the middle, we're all stark bollock naked. Just the door opens, 2 police officers walk in. So I'm there in bed with 2 women, like right in the middle of it. Police officers walk in. I'm like, what? And we're all pretty drunk still. And so the police officers, I was like, can I help you, officers? And they're like, yeah, we've had a call that someone's being held against their will in this room. And I was like, okay. I said, the call, did it come from a man or a woman? And I said, the call came from a man. I said, do I look like I need saving right now? I said, could this call have possibly come from the maladjusted previous recent ex-boyfriend of either of the women I'm sleeping with at the moment? And they were like, yeah, possibly. So I said, so could you leave so we can carry on? And there was a male and female copper. The male copper could not stop grinning. Female copper was exceptionally unimpressed with the whole thing. Yeah, but yeah, that was about as rock and roll as I get. Great.
That was a turn I was not expecting that story to take. I thought like you and Millie were going to like backstage like doing Jaeger shots or something, but
no, no. It was, so obviously that carried on. I left that hotel room sometime early in the morning, stumbled back to the van, because we were all sleeping in the van. Because that's the kind of level of touring we were doing. Yeah. We had a big van, had some bunks in it and some bench seats, so everyone kind of had a place to sleep. But I staggered back to the van. I had to wander around Leeds City Centre trying to find the van because I didn't know where it was parked. My phone was dead, so it was a little bit of a challenge. But
when you're doing a walk of shame, it doesn't hurt so much, does it? you can walk about with your head held high. So yeah. I'm glad that Damnation helped you out with that. Look. And you were back 2010. That was an odd year for us because we had to sort of downsize a bit. But it was still a great lineup with sort of Dillinger's Gate Plan and Paradise Lost. And you guys again were on the main stage. Seemed to have a great show. Yeah.
Again, we had a brilliant one. Damnation fans always been considering we're like fucking ABBA compared to a lot of the bands that you have played there. So we're like the light entertainment, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably the.
But sometimes it's nice that flat change of pace in the main stage as well. I think some fans. I mean, you're right. Panic Cell are. You described yourselves as meat and potato sort of metal, but it is something you can just enjoy. You know what I mean? It doesn't be too serious. You don't be sitting there waiting for guitar signatures and it's like some funeral doom where you really try to invest in it. You're just like, right, we're here, we're drinking Jägermeister, and you were great for that. There's always a great warmth for the Damnation fans towards Panic Cell. I felt that you're not that traditional Damnation band, but when he's played, the room was full and everybody really enjoyed the buzz of it. But let's not pretend that Damnation was some way one of the highlights of the big shows you guys done, because you played Download, you've done Sonosphere, you've done Bloodstock, you've done everything in the UK. So tell me a wee bit about that touring period for you guys and those kind of shows.
Yeah, I mean, obviously starting with that, we had that Disturbed tour which stopped us doing Damnation in 2005. That was the first big support tour that we ever really got. And it didn't last that long. It was supposed to be 9 shows, but after 3, David Drayman lost his voice, so they had to cancel them all, and they went home. Right. But they were still great gigs. So that was the first time we played the Astoria. So that was a real landmark for us because obviously being London being the nearest place for any of us to go and see gigs, the Astoria was the place to go.
Yeah,
we'd seen everyone there from Slayer to Fear Factory. So many good gigs. So to actually stand on that stage, play, that was cool as fuck. Yeah, that really was. And then getting gigs after that for a year or two really involved me promoting the gigs. It was the only way or the easiest way to get Panic Cell on the tour was by me booking the tour. So that's what we did.
That's a ballsy move. There's no many people are willing to start putting on full UK tours for bands so they can play the tour. So tell me a wee bit about how you get into that process and the sort of, not the costs involved, but I know if you want the costs involved, what you had to share out to make that happen.
Well, for the first real proper tour, I guess, was the one that we started on first. I mean, I had the first gig that I ever promoted around that time for us to play was Testament at Coco. That was just a one-off.
They're not just stopping there, right? You're not sliding past that. You booked Testament to play the Coco so you guys could support.
Yes, correct.
But how does that discussion even happen? Because, well, I mean, if Testament are playing, they're going to have a say in who the support is. So was that sort of like, I'm willing to pay whatever fee you guys need to play London in this venue, but the catch is to be that Panic Cell are supporting?
Yeah, that was what we set up with the agent. It was like, well, we want the London show because they were doing 10 shows. It was the original lineup, Testament, including Lou Clemente, who hadn't played drums for like 15 years at that point. So it was all the original members coming back. Just 10 nights, 10 cities. It was a Dutch auction, basically. A blind auction, just put your offer in. John Viner from the Underworld was exceptionally upset with me. A lovely guy, John is.
Yeah.
He's forgiven me since. But, he always did Testament. But, of course, I put in a higher bid. Like, I think he bid 10,000 for him and I bid 12. No one knew. I didn't know he was bidding. It was all closed doors shit. I wanted to do the gig. So I bid $12,000 for Testament to come and play Coco.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? We made our money back. It's cool. I didn't make any money, but it was brilliant. Walking Alex Skolnick up to the dressing rooms at the top of Coco. So obviously, as I'm sure you've been there before. It's quite confusing.
Not the Coco. No, I've only ever been in the Forum in London, and then the huge one, Brixton, I think.
Right. It's like those in the sense that the dressing rooms, there's lots of different staircases to go up to get to all the dressing rooms. So I was taking band members up as they came off the bus, and Skolnick, who is one of my all-time top favourite guitarists. I love the guy. I think he's brilliant. He's one of the best lead guitarists ever. So I'm walking him up there, and he gets to the room, and we've laid out their rider exactly as it is on their, exactly as they spec.
Yeah.
So everything's there, down to the fucking strawberries, exactly what beers, wines, spirits they ask for, every single bit of food. And he's standing there, he's like, what's this? I said, it's your rider, Alex. He's like, yeah, I know what it is, but no one ever gives us all of it. I was like, well, you're in luck. This is my first promoted job, so you got a lot. And you're my favourite band. So, have fun with it.
That is proud. And I was saying it because I done a podcast with Gordon Morrison of Raging Speedhorn at the sort of second or third episode of this. And that happened to me, that the rider said 20 cheeseburgers for Raging Speedhorn. And here's me, fucking dafty face, trying to skip along to McDonald's to buy 20. Before somebody who knew anything about the industry said, listen, enough, none of that nonsense. So I'm glad to hear that someone else getting the promoting game badly exposed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, fucking, it was, yeah. After now, thinking about it now, like you're saying, it's like, yeah, that never happened now.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to touch on all the tour managing stuff when we get done with Panic Cell, but you were the guy that said to me, and as I say, I've taken more advice for you in the metal scene than anyone else. In fact, 10 times more advice for you than anyone else. And you were the guy that said to me, a rider's a wish list. Now, there's stuff you're going to have. A catering, I need to always make clear, I'm not a technical rider. A catering rider is a wish list. And sometimes bands or tour managers will chance their arm or they'll send in. And you can sometimes get a feeling for an event where you'll say, I'll send the big one in for whatever band you're doing at the time. So it was good. It's great that you've been done with a full wish list.
No, totally. But I love Testament. There was no way they were going to get anything less than that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
So this tour you put on then. So it was this American Head Charge and Soil when you.
Yeah, that's right. Now to make that tour happen, for us to go out and directly support those two bands, both great bands we all loved, I had to borrow £50,000 from a man. And I had to borrow it from a man that would have my legs broken if he didn't get his money back. I didn't go down a fucking HSBC. It wasn't that. I wasn't in that kind of position.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How did that one do?
It did great. Brilliant. We made some money, so
right.
It was cool. Everyone got paid back quite happily. It was a win, and a great tour.
Yeah.
American Head Charge always amazed me. We toured with them, I think, 4 or 5 times in the end. And that was probably the second time I think we did. And they were just... it's difficult to describe them. I mean, musically phenomenal, all the players. But they're like, during the day, they're so strung out, either on drugs or drinking or whatever they're doing, that you don't... Like, we will look at them and wonder how they're going to perform. But 5 minutes before they're supposed to be on stage, they're all there ready, and they they killed it every night.
Didn't you? I mean, they were good at what they did. I mean, it seems to laugh at new metal and the whole thing, but those guys, I mean, the War of Art was it? They were good. They were just a solid new metal band. And was that also was that also with Soil when you done that first tour? Was that American Headshot and Soil, or was it just?
Yeah, it was Soil. Yeah, it was Soil and American Headshots, like a co-header.
And that was quite an exciting time for those bands. I mean, those bands were like in the cusp or something. That was before they started getting the arena tours with like Rammstein and so on. So you were getting into packed rooms. So are you looking at this like, this is the way forward? This is the way to do this, is promote and get my band on?
Yeah, it seemed to be the way. It certainly got us the gigs that we couldn't get any other way, because agents were just knocking us back. You know, we put the usual request in, like everyone, but we didn't, at the time we didn't have an agent, so we'd have to do it all ourselves. And we'd keep requesting to come onto tours, and continually it was like, no, someone else gets it, someone else gets it. And I'm like, I've got to do something about this. We need to go on some tours where people are going to be there to watch us. You know, it's great to do headline shows, but you know, Panic Soul are only ever going to bring in like 50 or 100 people. You know, exposing ourselves to the audiences of these bands who have already had these established acts. It's always the best way for bands to move forward, as we know. Yeah. But trying to get a gig without a manager or an agent or you know, anyone to help you was really tough. So I worked out that the best way to do it was to be the promoter. And so that's what we did. I think we booked 12 or 13 dates around the country. I did the deal with the bands whereby I paid them a lower fee than they would normally get, but I paid for the tour buses, which is something that they would normally pay. So, and I paid for their flights. So it was kind of, I worked out the deal, and I knew how much I needed to make from each gig to bring the money back in. And that one was a win. It was great. Yeah.
That one really was a win. When it seems to lead into one was a loss.
I mean, there was a couple that just broke even. That one made money. But then the hardest one that I did, where I did lose my back, I lost my shirt, was El Nino and Drowning Pool. And on paper, that was a good lineup. Same as, should have done the same business as Soil and American Head Charge. Still around the same time. Still bands that were relevant and could sell tickets. But for some reason, people just didn't come out to that one. Yeah. And I think that one ended up costing me about 20 grand. And after that, I had to stop.
Yeah, you're right. But, that wasn't, by that point, that wasn't the guy that was going to break both your legs.
No. At that point, I had the money from myself, so it was only my money I was gambling at that point. And after that, what we did get out of that, out of doing that work, was Dan DeVita, because Dan was the agent for a lot of these bands. So in the end, he's like, look, I'm putting your band on all these gigs and working with you. He said, I'll just represent your band from now on. So Panic Cell actually earned an agent, and a very good one. Yeah. He's still one of my very favourite people in the business.
Yes.
He's an amazing guy. And he did some incredible things for Panic Cell that we never deserved. Yeah. You know, he put us on Sonosphere in the Czech Republic on the main stage. It was the Big Four and us.
Yeah. So it was like, basically, you guys played with Metallica. So on the main stage, I saw Sonosphere, fucking God knows how many thousand. Just let's pause for a minute and talk about that day, because how many people? You're not in Metallica. The best thing you can do is support Metallica. So what was that like? As you see, a bunch of guys from near London to be able to go to the Czech Republic and play with Metallica.
It was amazing, and their crew was so nice to us, because obviously. We were opening the stage. They were there line checking their stuff before we get to go on. And they're like, the stage is yours, come on. And they gave us the whole stage. They moved all of their stuff right back. You would think a headline band, and we've seen loads of headline bands do it before, leave all their gear and you get the front, 10 feet. They didn't do that. They cleared everything. We had the entire stage. And it was huge.
Yeah.
They couldn't have been more helpful. The festival organisers were brilliant. I think it was Kilimanjaro part of that. That was Alan Day and the guys at Killy. I mean, everyone looked after us.
Yeah.
We were in a dressing room compound with all the other bands. So, we got our dressing room next to Anthrax, and then there's Megadeth just down the way. And Slayer's over the other side. Metallica's got more rooms there. They had this free bar in there just for the bands to drink at. It was...
Yeah. I mean, not that I'm wanting to try and top trump your threesome experience, but I would say that's your rockstar day. Not fucking Damnation 2007.
I mean, that was... I mean, it was super cool. Obviously, amazing experience to go and play there. I think, and of course, we're thinking that, you know, no one's going to watch us because no one in the Czech Republic knows who the fuck we are. So we go out on stage expecting there to be a couple of hundred people just wandering in. But, yeah, we walk out and there's 20,000 people there.
Yeah.
They all, and when we were setting up, they opened the doors and people just streamed to the front. They just filled it. It was, we were just amazed that so many people were there, and they all got into it. We had a great reaction. Really, really enjoyed ourselves on that gig.
Yeah.
Oh, Devildriver were playing as well. So it was us, Devildriver, and then the Big Four. And Alice in Chains. Yeah, that's right. So it was us, Devildriver, and then Anthrax and Megadeth, then Alice in Chains, then Slayer, then Metallica.
Ridiculous.
I mean,
ridiculous.
It's fucking it's some of my all-time favourite bands. We get to play and hang out with, and it was mind-blowing experience.
And you also, because what I did before this, what I do all that is try to do a wee bit of a deep dive on whoever I'm going to be talking to today, try and get myself up to speed with some of the stuff I'm making on about. You played the Polish Woodstock, and you also played a huge festival main stage, well, it looked like in Belgium. I mean, was that, like, how many small UK bands get the chance to go into these main stages? And no one.
No, we were so lucky. And that, like I say, that's Dan DeVita. He got us those gigs when we really didn't have the right to have them. I mean, we took it with both hands. We loved him for it.
Yeah.
Polish Woodstock. The year we played, I think there was 300,000 people there. Well, for 350,000. It just gets bigger every year. I think last year they had like 600,000, 700,000 people. It's one stage, one massive stage with an eclectic mix of music. The year that we went there, we played after a reggae band. And then later that night, I think, or the next night, Nigel Kennedy, the violinist, was playing before Papa Roach. And it's just like, it was cool.
Yeah. Quite a bit of that back then and playing the gigs. In terms of the UK, even just quickly then, the likes of Bloodstock, Sonosphere, Download, how did you find it? Because you weren't playing maybe the main stage at Bloodstock, but you weren't playing the main stage at Download or Sonosphere. So how did you find those shows, considering they were home shows in comparison to playing the main stage in Poland?
Yeah, I mean, with the last download we did, Andy Coppin was really kind to us. He made us a stage 4 headliner.
Yeah.
Which is like, we can say we headlined a stage at Download. Again, something not many people get to say. That was cool. Andy was always so supportive as well. Really nice guy. All of the festival promoters in the UK, Alan and the Kilimanjaro guys, and Andy and Vicky and the Bloodstock guys. I mean, we were the first band to play Bloodstock open air, if I remember rightly. The very first one in 2005.
I was there that day. That was when Damnation was just getting out, and I was trying to figure out a wee bit more about the scene, about what was happening in the UK. And I remember you guys coming in. That was a good show as well. So he's a few sort of historic sort of first, didn't he? The bands that were playing these headlining stages here, opening a stage at the first time. I mean, Panic Cell, as I said at the very start, he's had a real stab at it. So when it got to 2011 and you play your final show at Sonosphere, firstly, how was that a show for you? And secondly, why was that then? Because you guys were clearly still making a mark. What was the decision to say, right, okay, let's pack it in?
I think with that last show at Sonosphere was awesome because the weather wasn't great, if I remember rightly. It was raining. But we still had 3,000-4,000 people standing in front of us, just to send us off, and the response was incredible. We had a great last gig. We did drink a little bit too much, but we still managed to play an okay set. We set the PA. Oh no, the PA got set on fire by the band before us. That's right. That was cool. They had to actually put one of the PA boxes out. It set on fire. For that gig and that gig alone, we had a guy called Ben Hammond, who's a good friend of mine. We'll talk about him a bit later. He came and mixed our show for us. So that was probably one of the best sounding shows we would have ever done, because Ben is an absolute genius, front of house guy. And it was just nice that we had a good send off like that. Everyone was happy. It kind of came to a natural conclusion. In the end, you know, I could see, and the rest of the guys, I think they understood as well, that we couldn't keep getting the gigs that we were getting. There was like a finite point. Yeah, even Dan DeVita could only work so much magic for us.
Yeah.
And you know, I think we'd achieved all that we could achieve. That was my personal opinion. We'd achieved all that we could reasonably expect to achieve with what we did. The other boys disagreed. They did want to carry on, but ultimately, I was like, no, I just don't think that we're going to get any more than what we've had before, and I don't think we'll get any more of that either. Yeah, that was really kind of as much as we were going to get. It's a shame. I mean, I liked all 3 albums. I was happy with certainly with parts of them, not all of them in their entirety. But I think we'd written a decent bunch of good songs. We had a pretty good live show. You know, everyone could play, and most of the time I could sing. So we, you know, yeah. By the time 2011 came round, I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to progress anymore from here. Yeah. I mean, you know, at that point we're all in our 40s. We've all got families. Like, committing to, you know, long tours was becoming more problematic for the guys. My tour managing was getting busier and busier. So it was even more. It was as much of a problem for me. You know, at that point in 2011, we're fitting in our gigs and tours around what I was doing with Skindred, or, you know, whichever other band I was working for.
Yeah. And then also I take it, it's like, right, you guys can send yourselves off to 3,000 or 4,000 people. Sonosphere was an incredible festival. I'm so sad to see it die. But you guys get to do that. Or you can grind it out, playing to 60 to 100 people some places, at night after night for another 5 years, to the point you do what, hoping for a miracle, hoping that something's going to happen. Yeah. And you were smart enough to see, look, if that miracle was going to happen, if we were going to be whatever the Indy was looking for to be the next British Black Sabbath thing, that would have happened. It would have happened. So, and you're also you're very honest, and like, it's not that you never had the opportunity to make that happen. I mean, as you put it, you get gigs that you might not even have deserved. I mean, why were you guys playing the main stage in Czech Republic, you know? So if it was going to happen, you guys said that, a career with the Panic Cell, a lot of bands would be the envy of a lot of bands, but at the same time, for an outsider looking in, I'd love to be able to send my band off to 4,000 fans at Sonosphere and not to 40 fans in Wakefield, you know?
Yeah. Although, don't get me wrong, some of my favourite gigs were to really small crowds. So, you know, those gigs at the Alma Inn, we could only fit 20 people in front of us. Yeah. But, yeah, they were cracking. Every time we played there, absolutely. It was great.
As a fan, they're definitely some of the best gigs to attend as well, or the small ones. So, right, just to wrap a bow around the Panic Cell. So 2023 would mark 20 years of The Bitter Part of Me. Is there any chance I've ever seen Panic Cell on stage for a wee one-off?
It was offered a few times, like if we wanted to reform and go back and play, like just a one-off date. I think Download made an offer a few years ago, or at least said they'd be interested. I can't say they made an actual offer, but you know, said if we wanted to do it, talk to them and they'd sort something out. I don't know. I mean, I still talk to Bobby occasionally, and Harge. You know, Facebook is great to keep in touch with the guys. Yeah. I even met up this year, well, last year now, with Lee, our original drummer. I haven't spoken to Rob, who replaced Lee. I haven't spoken to him much. Right. No one left. Like, no one quit on bad terms. The rest of the guys went and formed another band.
Deadly.
You know, soon after.
7?
Yeah, 7 Deadly, I think it was.
7 Deadly, sorry.
with Archie, who's a great guy, great singer. And so they gave it a shot at doing something else. I think they had a good time doing that too, but I don't think it went too far.
Yeah.
The part of the problem there was a lot of the reason why we got what we got was the fact that we had that great relationship with Dan DeVita.
Yeah.
And, having a good agent for any band is exceptionally important, obviously. Once we achieved that with him and we got all the big gigs and the fun tours, and of course Dan worked primarily with me, so he didn't go with the Seven Deadly thing. He didn't book them, so the guys were they're a bit hamstrung in that sense.
Yeah.
But they still gave it a good shot, and power to them. Yeah, they're all good musicians, great guys. So,
yeah.
But as far as a Panic Cell reunion, nothing is on the cards at the moment. But like I say, we all still talk, so maybe, who knows?
It'll be a bit of fun, and it's not one of those ones you need to go back into any sort of commitment. As you say, there was no real animosity in the breakup. It was more a natural split. So, I mean, listen, if there's a 20th anniversary, a bit of part of me, if it's not at Damnation, I'll definitely be there to see it. So, that would be good. We have a lot. We've got so many.
Are you offering us a slot for 2023?
Yes, right here, right now. 2023, 20th anniversary. Get your guys together, main stage at Damnation, and we'll get a bit of Save Me, get a bit of sing-along going. That would be, it's a perfect place for it. I'm trying to reunite bands all left, right and centre. I've got Mistress trying to come back, and Panic Cell coming back. This podcast is supposed to be fun. I'm booking up lineups for the future. So, awesome. Great. Speaking about Panic Cell, that was good to reminisce about it. But that takes you on to your tour managing years. So you've mentioned likes of Skindred, and then you were about Life Agony. Tell me, I kind of get into the weeds a wee bit with tour managing with Tom Begley of Bosk and basically what that means. But give me a wee bit of your take and what being a tour manager means for a listener who has no idea.
Particularly at that kind of level, from my point of view, being a tour manager is basically making sure, doing whatever you need to do to make the show happen. Okay.
That's almost word for word how Tom Begley described it. I don't know if you watched that podcast, but that's exactly. I don't know if you guys got a motto. Is that like a tour manager motto? That's exactly how he described it.
It's what you end up being forced to do. It doesn't matter. Singer's fucking broken his arm, or go and deal with whatever situations come up. Tour managing, you definitely require patience. I would say that. Bands, very few bands are a real problem. I've been lucky that nearly all of the bands that I've tour managed have never caused any serious issues. There's only really one though that comes to mind that was trouble.
You want to identify that band, or is that?
That guy's in the news all the time for being difficult, and that's Wes Scanlon from Puddle of Mudd.
How were you involved? Was it Puddle of Mudd that you were tour managing?
I was tour managing them and Soil both together on one bus. We had one big 18-berth bus. Obviously, the tour buses. You've owned a couple. So, just one 18-decker. Which, the guy that I felt the most sorry for was Soil had got a new drummer at that point called John Wysocki. John was, before he joined Soil, he was a drummer in Stained. And a great drummer as well. Really good. And a nice guy. But with Stained, he had his own fucking bus when they toured. And so he leaves Stained, joins Soil, and suddenly he's with 17 other guys on a bus. And it's pretty grim.
Yeah.
And one of the guys is Wes Scanlon, who was just a seriously bipolar guy. Really, you just don't know what you're going to wake up to with him. Absolutely crazy. I don't know how the rest of his band put up with him all the time. I just don't know. Because
was that a daily? Yeah. So give me an example of an issue you would have to try to tour manage a guy like Wes.
Okay, so first gig, everyone arrives. the day before the first show, everyone arrives. Except for Wes. He goes out drinking, doesn't get back to the bus. So we're sitting there at a 2 a.m. bus call to go to the first show to do the gig. But Wes isn't there. And I phone his manager, who's in LA, Danny Wimmer, actually, at the time. Danny was his manager. Yeah, Danny runs a load of festivals in the US. Funny enough, he did some really big ones. Danny Wimmer presents, what was he doing? Like Rocklahoma and a huge one in Columbus.
Okay.
So I worked with Danny. That's other stories. But anyway, I phoned Danny. I'm like, well, Wes isn't here. We're an hour past our bus call. Is there a way I can contact him? What do I do? He's like, just leave. He'll make his own way. He'll see you at the gig tomorrow. And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, he does this a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm taking it. Yeah, you're his manager. You told me. So I was like, bus driver, let's go. Just left him there. And true to what Danny said, the next day Wes Scanlon rolls in sometime late afternoon and just wanders in to the gig. You know, it was a pretty fucking random place as well. It wasn't like London or Manchester. I don't remember where it was. It might have been Milton Keynes or something like that, you know. But yeah, he just rocks up, and the rest of his band, like, yeah, he does that. But from a tour manager's point of view, it's an absolute mindfuck because you're like, I haven't got one of the singers in my.
That's your job. Your job is like, to build it together, and there's this
I was the entire day I was losing my fucking mind because like towards the start I've already lost one of the principals. It's like, what the fuck? A few days later, we had a day off before playing at Sheffield, the Corporation. So as you know, with tour buses, they need to be parked and powered for them to be of any use. So, and of course, good old Muttley at the Corp, they didn't have a gig on the night before. They had a club on. So he let me park the bus and power it outside the Corporation. At 3 o'clock in the morning, when this student club night kicks out, Wes thinks it's a great idea to open the tour bus door and invite anyone that wanted to come on the bus to have a party with him. And we're all asleep. Like, fortunately, the Soil guys had got a couple of hotel rooms, so they weren't on the bus. But all the crew and the rest of Wes's band were all there. And so we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to just random people wandering around our bus. And it's like, what the
and
fuck
for folk who don't know about buses, it's you're sleeping in a coffin. So you've got a curtain coffin. And it's disconcerting enough, but when you get people walking past your bunk, it's very off-putting, especially if you don't know who they put that person is, because you're in no position really to defend yourself, if you know what I mean. You're like, you're completely sort of hamstrung in this coffin. So the idea of just a fucking bunch of students wandering through your bus when you're asleep would be terrifying.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting out, you know, I'm in my fucking boxers and a T-shirt, like, there's all these like 20-year-olds wandering around the bus. They're all drunk as fuck. They've just come out of like the cheapest nightclub on the planet after downing as many triple vodkas as they like. So they're all in the right state. And they're like, yeah, the guy said we can come on. I was like, well, I'm telling you to fuck off, you know. And they were just ignoring me. And I'm just like, we're having to physically push them out of the bus. And that was Wes.
And that becomes a sort of daily thing. So it's no showing up at the gig, it's letting people into the tour bus. So it's just and what was that? Was that an ego with him? Is it just he's just a difficult character? I mean, why?
Honestly, I don't think it was ego. I think it was literally the guy has a mental problem.
He has an issue. Okay.
Mental problem, definitely.
Okay.
To do stuff like that. I mean, we did a gig in Cardiff at the Coal Exchange. He went on stage there. I think he sung 4 songs, then came off stage, came and found me back behind stage. He's like, oh, I want to go to my hotel now. I'm like, dude, you've got, you know, another half an hour, 40 minutes of your set to go. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm not doing any more today. Oh, I'm like, well, I don't know if they're going to pay you if you're not going to do any more. Yeah. I don't know what to say. He's like, I don't care. I want to go back to my hotel. So I got a message to the band that he wasn't coming back, and then while they carried on playing his songs, and Adam, who's the lead guitarist in the band, really great guy, and a really brilliant singer, he just went in, stepped in, and they did the rest of the set without Wes, while I was walking him to his hotel. Absolutely, yeah.
That was the toughest. That was the toughest one in terms of personalities to deal with. Was that tough?
I would say so. Yeah, it was tough for me on a couple of levels because obviously I was tour managing 2 bands, which can always be a little bit challenging. Although the Soil guys are awesome, so that makes it a lot easier. They're so easygoing. Known them for years. They're all good friends. So there's so a lot of the pressure for me was taken off the fact that I really only had to deal with Puddle of Mudd. Soil basically handled themselves.
Yeah.
But also we couldn't fit all the gear in the trailer, so I had to drive a van behind the bus every night with the gear, and then get 3 or 4 hours sleep, and then get up and tour manage and deal with Wes. So. And that was 2 weeks of me driving a transit van around while tour managing 2 bands.
Yeah,
that was a challenging tour.
It was a slog. A million miles away from the world you live in now, mate.
Yes, it's somewhat different to now. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So because I don't want to jump a decade. So you're part of that. Those tours at that time, and so let's talk about like Life, Agony and Skindred and touring Europe. Obviously, you've shown up at like a Hellfest in France and just said, here guys, here's 1 million drink tokens to me and like come side stage and watch Down or Alice in Chains or whatever it is. So how was your experience and how continues to be your experience and taking these bands into Europe? What festivals do you think are fantastic? What festivals do you think are terrible? Just tell us something about that sort of behind the scenes thing.
I mean, Hellfest is a great example. All in all, brilliant festival. I think the fans really enjoy it. I mean, you guys love going there. They do a lot of things right. I mean, it's certainly the best live music event that France puts on, as far as I'm concerned. Backstage, the one singular issue I ever had backstage when I've taken whichever band there, whether it was Skindred or Life of Agony or whoever else, I think I did Hell Yeah there as well. It's so hot and they have no air conditioning. I know it's a real bitchy thing, but Americans particularly, when it's hot and there's no AC, they do tend to lose their minds because they're just used to it. Their country is their entire country is full of it. So when they're sitting in a hot tent and there's no relief for them, they can get a little bit tetchy. But that's the one singular complaint I could possibly have about Hellfest. The backstage catering is fantastic. The way that they look after the bands is really great. The dressing rooms are nice. They really do a great job. That's not to say that British festivals don't, but they don't. As much as I love Andy Copping, and as much as what Download did for Panic Cell, going and working there for other bands was quite challenging. You go to European festivals, so you have your dressing room all day or a couple of dressing rooms. They really look after you. I took Hell Yeah to Download, and they wanted the band out of their dressing room 30 minutes after they finished playing. Yeah. I'm like, this is Vinnie Paul. He sub-headlined this with Pantera back in the 90s. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a metal icon, and you're telling him to piss off out of his dressing room. The guy's like, well, what do you want us to do? I said, well, you're Live Nation. Why didn't you rent some more fucking dressing rooms? Yeah. It's not hard. Another few porta cabins.
It's weird as well because we get that we'll get some of the stuff that filters down for the major festivals that it's almost an assumption made for Damnation. And people see that to us, they'll say, so when do we need to build our dressing room? Like, what do you mean? It's like, it's a room in a university, it's there forever, mate. If you want to show up the night before and sleep in it, and then sleep in it the night after, that's fine too. There's no issue. So, I mean, without ever putting on a major festival, I kind of understood that must happen at festivals, that they must have time slots that bands are allowed to have a dressing room, which from outside looking at a band that are playing the main stage, you're thinking, what? I mean, if you ever wanted the illusion of what happens behind stage, I mean, get into this industry. It's tragic. It is tragic. It is, everything is so dull. I mean, there's nothing better than out front where the fans are standing, because what's happening behind it really takes the magic away from some of it. But it's one of those ones where that isn't the case. It's still a bit Disneyland for goths. It's still got all the razzmatazz backstage and fucking the artists and the tattoos and the massage tables and Where else in Europe or all the world really shows up UK?
Grasspop is a really good example as well in Belgium. In fact, you know what? All the Belgian festivals, not just the metal ones, Werchter is incredible. That festival happens like it's 4 or 5 days every year. I've done it with Florence and with the Chili Peppers, and their setup is it's just insane. You know, the food is like Michelin star restaurant quality food. So yes, Sweden Rock as well. Penny just reminded me. Sweden Rock again. The catering. It's all about the catering. But it's all the crews will judge it by the toilet facilities and the catering. All right, and they're top notch at all of those festivals. Sweden Rock, Grasspop, Werchter though. When you're bringing a big production in, it can be challenging. But those guys, the amount of stage space behind stage that they have is bigger than the stage itself. So you can build whole productions and just wheel them on. I mean, you don't see anything like that. It's getting into a kind of more technical side of things. It's so much easier. You know, so much easier. I wish every festival would go to Werchter and look at it. Wacken's another great festival. I mean, that's, you know, Thomas and the guys there. That is top class. Yeah, you know, that was the first festival I went to where they had, like, you know, silver service, steak, their own wine label, you know, in the catering thing for all the bands. It was
interest, because I had Dave Hunt from Anon Athrak on the podcast, and he says if you ever wanted to feel like an insignificant shit, I think was his words, was play Wacken, because as amazing as Wacken is, they really look after the big acts, and you are the guy that, as he put it, he signs for his towels, and and they never let the other guy in the band through the security, so they had to play.
We do have to. Everyone has to sign for the towels. It's true. Yeah. No, every band I've ever taken there, where it was Life of Agony or Fozzy or anyone like that, you still have to sign for the towels. That's a big one. It's pretty funny.
I suppose if you're Life of Agony or Fozzy, you maybe don't get the same level of, like, no disrespect, but the same level of, you're not. I mean, all these festivals, I'm not pretending that Damnation, if you play in Europa, if you get the same treatment as if you're the opening band in the fourth stage, you just don't. So, but it was just when you mentioned Wacken in particular, I remembered the podcast I'd done with Dave that he'd said that. So, is there anything that happens backstage with tour managers, with management, with agents that try to sync this? Like when you're getting these great experiences in Belgium, but not so great experience in England, that you're saying, look, why isn't this happening? Or is the culture gap too different? Is there government funding in some of these countries that you don't get in England? What's the disparity?
I think you're right there in part, particularly say with the Hellfest. I think that they do get help from the French government. And I know in the Netherlands and probably in Belgium, there is more money for the arts. And so there's probably some assistance or at least some relief for them. I don't know the ins and outs. I mean, I'm not a promoter of one of those kind of gigs, but it also seems like they're just prepared to spend that little bit more money on making their artists more comfortable. Like I said to the guys at Download, you know, they're Live Nation. They should have the money to put more stuff in, but they don't. Download from a backstage perspective is poorer than a number of their European counterparts that sell less tickets for less money. So, you know, how it's difficult. Yeah, it's fine. You know, they want to make money. It's fair enough. They're not in the business of giving their money away to everyone or wasting it. They're just being prudent. I get it, but at the same time, they should be. I don't know if the right word is embarrassed, but you know, every band goes and does all of those other festivals. Then they come to Download, and it's like, well, Rock am Ring and Rock am Park really looked after us, and now we got this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I'm a little bit, and I have said it before to anyone who wants to listen, I am a little bit embarrassed by that when
that's your home, that's your festival.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, you're the English tour manager. You're touring this band across the world. The thing you arrive in England, it's like that is your event, and you're having to sort of apologise for the fact that, and let's not just throw just Download under the sun. I'm sure that's the same at the backstage at Glastonbury, Leeds and Reading. I mean, you must have, all these guys are the same.
Yeah, it's true. Leeds and Reading. I mean, I've been lucky. The only time I did Leeds and Reading was with the Chili Peppers, so we were the headliners. So I can't say what it's like for the rest of the bands, because obviously for us, I mean, and I tell you what, one thing it is nice about being the headliner of those festivals, you do wield a big stick. You know, I go into Leeds and Reading. You know, I did it at Reading Festival. We had extra guests. I wanted to feed them. I went into the office where all the guys running the festival are. I was like, yeah, I need an extra 50 meal tickets. And they're like, oh, you're the Chili Peppers production coordinator. I was like, yeah. And they just start counting them out, you know. Whereas, to use an example of Download, where I was tour managing, God forbid, in 2009, they give you a meal ticket. You're there all day, sometimes for 2 days at Download, and they'll give you one meal ticket, so you get one meal.
Yeah.
That year, they gave us meal tickets that were black print on white paper, just uneven cut. Like, I had a printer in my little, you know where the story's going. So I got our meal tickets, put them all down, copied them, and just got a pair of scissors. I had to borrow a pair of scissors from Live Nation event production office because I didn't have a pair. So I borrowed their scissors to cut these meal tickets up. So all my guys got fed, and then I went and found Trivium, because I think my good friend Martin Lamb was tour managing those guys. I was like, do you guys need food? Have you got enough meal tickets? He's like, what, you got spares? I was like, yeah, I just made some. And so we went on the Devildriver's bus because they were there for the 2 days. They were all starving, you know. Well, literally, they're all starving musicians. I went and found those guys because, God forbid, we're doing shows with them. I was like, guys, have you got meal tickets to eat today? And they were like, no. I was like, right, okay. Andy Copping will kill me when if he watches this and finds out. The best.
I think
the best thing about it.
Cam Hack watches. I mean, I'm good. So he might pass up the chain. That'll be the end.
I'm really sorry. It wasn't when Cam was involved. It's cool. It was a long time ago. And I promise Cam I'll never do it again if I come to one of your festivals. But that time, there was just nothing we could do. We had to. The best part of that story, I called Dan DeVita up, the agent. It was there because all those bands were his bands, like Devildriver and God forbid were his bands. But he also had Papa Roach there. So I called up to find out if he needed meal tickets for Papa Roach. They were a bigger draw back then. I mean, they've always been a good draw, but at that point they were doing really well. And he was like, why? I said, well, because I've got some. He's like, did you make them? I was like, yeah. Why? He was like, Eddie Gowan, who was Papa Roach's tour manager at the time, he was like, yeah, Eddie's done the same as you. But he did one better than me, and this shows the balls of that man. I love that guy. He did it. He photocopied them in the Live Nation production office. They gave him the bag. He looked at what he had. He simply put them down and pressed fucking print in their office, printed out tickets, meal tickets, so that his guys could get more food. And I'd never met him at that point. I said to Dan, you got to introduce me to this guy, because I just want to shake his hand, because I thought I was being a bit fucking daring, you know. But this guy's just fucking trumped me fucking big time. So I got to meet him, and I met him, shook his hand. We were friends for life after that. I love Eddie. He's great.
Brilliant. It shows a wee bit. That's the life of a tour manager. I mean, I talk a lot in these podcasts about the life of a promoter and having to push back against tour managers or agents or whatever. But it really speaks to what it's a tour manager. It's a daily grind to make sure what you need for your band is exactly what they're going to get, and the tour managers get it.
Always have to compromise, particularly at those kind of levels. There's always going to be compromises that have to be found. But once you start working with certain promoters a lot, bringing different bands to the same people, it does become easier. Working with Big Dunk, for example, up there in Glasgow. The first time I worked with him, he was a lot harder on me, but it got easier and easier. I love Duncan. He's still classically Scottish kind of type, but he gives me a little more than he would do with some other people.
Brilliant. I hope he sees us. So let's say that's a perfect segue. This is a time in your life, your tour managers, bands, you're printing meal tickets to get them fed. Now, Luke Bell of today as a production coordinator with Red Hot Chili Peppers and Florence and the Machine. I mean, arenas and stadiums headlining the biggest festivals in the world. Now, tell the listeners and me, what does a production coordinator do? Okay,
basically, look, the production coordinator roles vary from band to band, or at least from production team to production team. So if I tell you what I do, that's not necessarily what every other production coordinator does. Basically, the easiest way to explain my job, which is how my boss, Narciso Martinez, he's the production manager for both of those acts. He says, basically, I am to tour manage the crew. That's effectively what a production coordinator's job is, to make sure that the crew have everything they need to make the gig happen. Say the Red Hot Chili Peppers, if we go and do an arena run, normal crew for them is 50 to 55 guys, plus 15 trucks and 5 tour buses. So I've got about 75 guys that I have to look after. That means I just got to make sure that they get fed, that they get. I book everyone's flights. I book all the hotels that are needed. I think the flights particularly can be quite, particularly with, say, the Chili Peppers, they only ever tour for a couple of weeks at a time. They'll do 3 weeks and then they'll have a week or 10 days off to, rest, relax, recover. They've all got families, the band members, so they don't want to be out for months at a time. They don't need to be. So over a 6-month period, I would have to book 55 guys' flights kind of 6 times there and back to different destinations. And, I'd be literally booking 500 flights. So keeping on top of that is, it honestly takes forever.
Look, it's difficult to get 5 flights for your family. You go to fucking Spain, having an absolute. How surely there must be, your daily routine must be cancelled flights and delayed flights and flights have been moved to elsewhere. I mean, not even. Let's not even talk pandemic. We're talking pre-pandemic. You must be dealing with, and then flights from where? Because they must have people that are experts in their field flying in from God knows where. Germany, one for Korea, one for
guys coming in from everywhere from Eastern Europe to Hawaii. So you've literally 2 or 3 of the Chili Peppers crew guys live in Hawaii, so I have to fly in from there. Sometimes Australian guys coming in as well. It all depends what crew are needed. But you fly them to and from wherever they need to be. Some of them don't even get, like our lovely Tanya, who's one of the band chefs. Like she comes, we have some chefs just to cook for the band because they follow a specific diet.
Of course,
Tanya doesn't have. She doesn't really have a home, so she'd get me to fly her from one holiday destination, and then fly her out from another one. I mean, she had the best life ever. I was flying her to all over the world.
Yeah,
because with the band you get a flight in and a flight out. It doesn't matter where it's to.
Yeah,
you either fly home or even I took advantage of it. We ended one Chili Peppers run. I flew to Hawaii. But basically the Peppers flew me to Hawaii instead of flying me back to London, so I could have a holiday. But it's all and the Peppers particularly, and Florence as well, really look after their crew. They're very kind, very generous. I mean, yeah, they can be. They earn great money, but they pay us well. They look after us really well. It's a world of difference. Yeah. It's still long hours. I mean, my daily routine. I get into a venue at maybe 6 a.m, because arena builds, they take time. So we're in there at 6. Production are always first in, last out. We're in there at 6, making sure that everything's ready. Go through the whole day, and then we leave. Maybe if we're lucky and we've built the show properly, we can get it out of an arena in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So show will be down at 11. We might be out, showered and out of there by 2 a.m. Get back on the bus, and we might have to go straight to the next gig, and so get 3 or 4 hours sleep, get back up, get in 6, work until 2. There's been, when you do triples, it can be quite hard. You think that arena gigs are easier than club gigs in a lot of respects, but when you're doing the production stuff, and if you're doing like 3 in a row, you're working on 4 hours sleep like every night for 3 nights. By the end of the 3rd night, you really don't want to face another one.
The boss.
It can be. It can be tough.
And how does that compare then to the tour managing? Because if you clearly get yourself into the next level, I mean, well, there is no other higher level, I suppose, than you're doing the top of Leeds and Reading and Download or whatever. So is there at that point, I'd like to get back to the tour managing at this level? I mean, the cream of the crop, or is production what you're really enjoying at the moment?
I really enjoy the production stuff, but I also really enjoy going back and tour managing Machine Head, which was the last gig, and again, that it's not like a step down. I mean, Machine Head are still a big band, and tour managing them was a real honour, because I was a huge fan of the band from when Burn My Eyes came out. So tour managing them on their 25th anniversary tour with like original drummer Chris Kontos and Logan Mader coming in as well. I mean, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So it's just totally different to arena production.
How did that become a thing, the Machine Head? Because that is, I mean, no one in their right mind would describe that as a step down. In fact, most people would describe that as a highlight of their life. So how did that come about? How do you end up the Machine Head tour manager for this massive tour?
It was Steve Lagudi, who's Machine Head's front of house guy, has been for the last 7 years. Steve and I worked on, God forbid, the tour I was just talking about in 2009, where I cheated Download out of a load of food. And Steve was the front of house guy there. And we worked really well together there. We kept trying to do other projects together. And it just, like, one of us was not available because we were doing something else. But finally, after 10 years of trying to get to work together again, Steve called me up and he's like, "When are you finishing with Florence?" I said, "September." I think our last gig's September 22nd. And that was that was at the Acropolis in Greece. That was at the Theatre of Herodes Atticus, which was a Roman amphitheatre that they built on the side of the Acropolis, so around 2,000 years ago. And Florence did a couple of nights there. That was magic. Right. And then he's like, "Great, pre-production starts for Machine Head on the 25th." So went straight from doing that with Florence into pre-production for Machine Head. I hadn't tour managed for a while at that point. It'd been about 5 or 6 years since I tour managed kind of properly. So it was trying to get my head back from being an arena production guy back to being the TM of a metal act. It was cool though. I mean, really cool. I had so much fun with that. Like I said, being a big fan of Machine Head, really, watching them play that first album, it's absolutely insane. Yeah, mind blowing.
And so, tell me, sorry, because you're getting landed. Like, it's not as if you and Rob, or the guys from Machine Head, are like classroom buddies from back in the day. Like, so
No.
you need to.
In
like,
fact, the one time I ever met Rob Flynn, he rockstar snubbed me at a party. He literally put his fucking hand up to my face. That was like 2007. I think Golden Gods Award, Metal Hammer Award after show.
Right.
I was a bit drunk. I saw him over there, and the girl that I was with at the time, she was a huge fan. So we'll go over and see if we can talk to him. And he just, literally, I went over, and he just simply put his hand in front of my face.
Oh, Jesus. Did you ever get a chance to say? Like, when you were... Did you ever get a chance to say when you were the team?
I told Rob that. I told Rob, when I met him, I was like, I met you once before. Told him what happened. He was I probably had just had too much at that point that night. It can get, and I could see it because he is someone that a lot of people want to talk to. Yeah. So I get it. At that point, late at night, he just had enough of people going up to him. But it was just me. I was like, oh fuck.
How was that tour from behind the scenes? Obviously the fans went and had an absolute blast, but how was that tour? How was Rob? How were the guys sort of integrated with the band again?
I mean, I'd talked to other people in the business that I know, and a few of them have been like, oh, Flynn can be difficult, but I found him to be really, really straightforward. He knows what he wants. He's very focused on his band and how it has to be, and I'm fine with that because it makes it very clear. You know where you are. So and that makes my job a lot easier, to be honest. The tour basically went flawlessly. We didn't, apart from the obvious event at Brixton where someone threw a pint of beer over the desk, and that was that was the one hiccup we had. But everything else was so smooth. The crew guys that we had there, even though some of them were young and it was their first tour, they did great. I'm part of the fortunate thing for me was that I'd spent 6 years doing such detailed prep work in the arena stuff, taking that into what is effectively a smaller tour, because I only had 13 crew as opposed to 50, meant that it was easy for me to make sure that nothing got missed and everything was dialed in properly. So, to be honest, it was a lot of fun. Watching them play every night and fucking nailing it. It was, really good.
When I was talking to you, again, back to the Anella podcast with Gordon.
Didn't I get you tickets for that gig and you never turned up?
Don't start that shit.
I'm just thinking, I'm pretty certain I left you some fucking laminates at the door in Glasgow.
This isn't a podcast for petty grievances, okay?
I'm sorry.
This isn't.
I was just trying to remember.
The listeners don't want to hear about any of your rock star snubbing shit, right? It was like 2 days after Damnation, I had my own shit to deal with. So
that's right. Yeah. That's
I appreciate that, and if we want to do it on the record again, I apologise that I never made it up. I'm sure I'd have loved the high five for Big Rob. But you've completely, I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, my bad.
Thrown me off. So, that tour, so was that the last job you had before shit hit the fan? Did you? Well, the thing is, you deal with bands. This isn't an operation that the rest of the world work with, where we do stuff 6 months in advance, a year, a push. You're dealing with Florence the Machine and Red Hot Chili Peppers, where these guys are 2 years into the future. So, like, what did you already have in the books that's been completely wiped out?
Yeah. I mean, I was supposed to be with the Chili Peppers all of the last summer. I lost probably 50 grand's worth of work this year that I know about. There was like already locked in. So that was tough. I mean, we all lost. Everyone's lost something here. I'm lucky I didn't lose my life. So, and I haven't lost. No one close and dear to me has died either. So I'm thankful for that. The money, I'll make it next year. It is what it is.
Yeah. I've reminded myself about what I was going to ask now, because Gordon Morrison, the guy for Agent Speedtorm, he said when he's tour managed, but he tour manages at a much smaller level than you do, and his beef with all with a guy who played in all the big arenas when Raging Speed Hall were big in the early 2000s was the headline tour manager's been dicks to him. Like, you go out there and the Billy Big Boys, the tour managers with Machine Head, the Mastodon and Opeth and whatever, fucking just making the opening band's life misery that you can't get whatever it is. Now, listen, look, there's a realistic thing at the end of the day. Your job as a tour manager for the headline band is to make sure your band comes before all else. However, it'd be difficult for me to imagine you being a dick to anyone. So how have you found that when you've went out with bands like Heaven's Basement and you've had to deal with a headline tour manager? And how do you now deal with smaller bands now that you are Billy Big Boys?
For the most part, we always go into it. You should always go into it wanting to treat like the support band as well as you can. Like doing the Chili Pepper stuff and with Florence, we are directed to make sure that we make the support band as comfortable as possible. Within reason. We're not going to compromise our show for them, but we'll make sure that they get fed and watered and have what they want in the rider. It's the right way of doing things. I know what you're talking about. Some of the tour managers. Some of them do have a reputation for just being really hard on the support acts. I remember Ryan McCombs from Soil talking to me, and I get on really well with Guy Sykes, who was Pantera's tour manager back in the day. Well, for the duration of the band, he was there. But Ryan's and a lot of other people have said that Guy could be very difficult on the support acts, and he was with Ryan. Just denying them what they would consider to be reasonable requests. Beer. It's normally about alcohol, to be fair.
Yeah.
The only times I've ever been really difficult with support bands is when they haven't done what they're told. I remember the guys from Breed 77, brilliant band, all friends of mine. But they came and supported Fozzy, and I was tour managing Fozzy. And I set out how I wanted the tour to run in terms of the timings and how the sound checks had to go, because they were the middle band. So I'm like, guys, you're very rarely going to get a sound check. You have to line check. But a number of times I'd come in the venue and find them ignoring what I told, and in the end I'd lost my shit with them. And they're like, why are you being like this with us? You're a friend. I was like, yeah, but you're not doing what I'm telling you. I am your friend, but I'm also the tour manager and the headlining act, and you're compromising my show. And you can't do that.
Yeah.
That was probably the one and only time I can think that I was really dickish. I did feel bad afterwards, but But
ultimately it had to happen because you're getting paid a role to do that. Do you get a situation where sometimes it's that you agree maybe with what's the support, and not so much about a case of beer or whatever, but the amount of stage that's been taken up by the headline band and the support band's coming to you sort of the friendly face and said, any chance we can get 10 minutes longer with the sound check, or can we get 10 feet more on the stage? And if you then ever went to the headline band or their management and said, any chance of this? Or do you just look at it like, no, I'm here for the headline band and that's it?
No. I mean, you definitely always go and see what can be done. A lot of the times, there's a lot of the times people, will just do what they need to do and not think about the other band. But if you bring it up to them, they're like, "Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem." Yeah. We were, and sometimes you can get some surprising things happen. I was tour managing a band called the Pretty Reckless, lovely guys from the US. Taylor Momsen, incredible singer, like pitch perfect singer, as long as she didn't drink too much Jameson. If she drank too much, then she struggled a little bit. But if she hadn't drank that much, she flawless singer and a lovely girl as well. But we were supporting Nickelback, and we on the first day of that tour, they'd set up and they spiked everything and marked it all out. And Chad Kroger actually came up on stage when the band were sound checking, and he got his stage manager and he said, "Can't we give them more room? Can we move our drum riser back to give them more stage space?" Without even really being prompted. So that was lovely. it turns out that Chad and the rest of Nickelback and their crew are awesome. I know people make jokes about them and all
which
that.
goes against public opinion, because I suppose public opinion is based on whether you like the music or not. And
Yeah.
they are a band, a sort of meme band, where people just shitting them for the sake of shitting them. But that's good to know. So they're actually decent guys.
They are decent guys. And Chad's brother, Mike, I think his name is, the bass player. He is hilarious.
Right.
Absolutely. He loves playing jokes on people. He cracked us all up so much. He was brilliant. And another thing about Nickelback, all the guys in that band can really play. Their drummer's a fucking beast. Chad shreds on guitar. He's a brilliant soloist. They're all really, really good.
Yeah.
So people can knock them all they like for whatever reason. That's fair enough. You know, people think the music's awful or whatever. But as people, they were lovely. As musicians, I had loads of respect for them, and they treated us really well.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Listen, look, I knew that this would be the longest podcast that I'd done. I knew that I could speak to you again for another fucking 2 hours and probably not even scratch the surface of the stuff. So I'm going to just quickly knock a few things out. Let's get it wrapped up. Well, you mentioned Alma Inn earlier. Now that seems to have closed its doors. There's like Crowbar in London's closed its doors, I think. This is a shitty time for the scene, for a man that's as deep in the scene as you are. What's your opinions? Not that you've got the answer. I mean, fuck, you're not Boris Johnson sitting there with billions to send, but what's your feelings on it and what's happening right now?
It's just a fucking disaster. You know, the government has done some good things to support small businesses, but it doesn't seem to have filtered down anywhere near as much as it needs to live music, particularly. I've got grown kids now. The two of them own a pub together. They run a pub, and you know the support for them was really good. What the government did with the furlough and what they did with the business grant that they gave to all the small business, like 10,000, 25,000, depending on the rateable value. Great. I applaud them for that, but so much of the other stuff that they've done, definitely, you know, we've seen the live events, people get together. Yeah, we make events, that's it. Yeah. Like the Red Alert stuff. I mean, it's sad that we've had to do it, but yeah, it really is devastating for our industry. It's not going to get any better. You know, furlough ends soon. For those few that do get it, that's done real soon. And suddenly, you know, I mean, I don't get any money. I'm lucky. I earn plenty, so I've got some savings. But you know, a lot of guys aren't in that position. You know, a lot of them live paycheck to paycheck. But the American crew guys, definitely, loads of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and I dread to think what's happening.
Yeah, and that's you as well, because you see the level of talent it takes when you're talking about crews of 55 people. I mean, how bad is it for the future of live music when you lose a few dozen of just your crew because they need to go and take another career?
Yeah, it's going to be like that. Hopefully, God willing, we're all going to come back next year. You know, I see the Chili Peppers, for example, have got gigs booked from May onwards. So I'm hoping that I'll go and do that work, and that means I start work in April, or you know, doing all the pre-production stuff. I don't know yet whether I will do. It's up to the band if they want the same production team back. We hope that they will, but we still don't know if they're going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and that's May. That's a long time for any of those crew guys from now. It was September now, so they got to get through Christmas and months afterwards with no money.
Yeah.
And there is a huge concern with all of us that we will have lost a lot of skilled guys that have had to just go and get jobs at home. And they're like, okay, well, I'm committed to this job now. You know, I can't go touring because I've got to stay and do this work instead.
Yeah. I'm not risking that again. You know, I just watched my mortgage get collapse and I had to sell my car. I'm not going back into the live music industry to see it happen again. Yeah. And I'm just going to keep this career that I might not enjoy, but then you've just lost the best lighting guy that was available and the best sound guy. Yeah,
I dread to think what the state of the job market is going to be like for us when we need 50 guys to come and work for us. I mean, because we had great guys. I'm worried that we would have lost a load of them.
Yeah.
It's devastating. It's horrible to think, because you need, for those kind of builds, you really do need dedicated, like really good dedicated crew.
Yeah.
It's
With that for us guys sitting in the UK, and you lose your own bands and you lose the Crowbar, and God knows what other venues are going to go in between. I mean, like Panic Cell are in the fabric of those venues. The bands that we go to see that then come to Damnation in the fabric of those venues. I mean, that's absolutely gutting as well, because where do you go?
Yeah.
You can't start as a band in a 300 capacity venue.
Now you start at the Alma Inn in Bolton, which is Panic Cell's first ever headline show.
Yep.
That was the gig. That was the first show of our first headline tour, and it was awesome. I loved that gig so much. Everything about it. The guys that ran the pub, they were so happy to have us there. The fans were brilliant. We had an amazing turnout, and it has one of the best kebab shops in the country next door.
Well, let's hope at least the fucking kebab shop survives.
It was worth doing the gig there just to get the kebab afterwards. So good.
So we are not the two guys that are going to fix any of this problem, but it's nice to highlight just how bad it is for the folk that we know, our friends, people in that position. Now, let's say I can't possibly do this podcast without mentioning those buses. No, I bought two 14-berth tour buses and started a business with it. There was one person in the world who said, "Do not do that, Gav. This will definitely fail. You do not understand." So tell us a wee bit about how right you were.
Okay, well, you can tell me as much about how right I was, but basically, I knew what a problem it would be, simply because pretty much every bus company owner in the world is a nutcase. All right, they're lunatics of one description or another. Lots of them are lovely, but they are fucking mad. The stress and grief that comes with running new buses, let alone fucking the 20-year-old ones that you bought from Tony Moore. It was Why Not? They were all Why Not buses. I mean, these things have been around.
Just to fill people
Tony must have been fucking. It's like rubbing this. It was fucking Christmas. 10 Christmases for Roll to the Run when you didn't just buy one, you bought fucking two off him.
The first one, we went down, and the first bus was the toured with Slipknot, Queens of the Stone Age, Biffy Clyro, and we were like fucking stars in the eyes, like, oh, this is amazing. And you took us up with a tour on that, the Pretty Reckless, the support band went on the a full tour. And don't get me wrong, when it was good, it was like Teen Park. We had the buses at Teen Park, Glastonbury, Reading, fucking everywhere. We had them. And when they went down and they get parked on a festival site, they were gold mines. I mean, they just made so much money. But see the other 51 weeks of the year, they cost so much money.
Yeah.
They just every week came a new bill. The drivers were assholes. The people serviced every 6 weeks. They were old buses. Everything. Like if a fucking doorknob needs changed, it was £700 plus VAT. If a bed needs made, it was £700 plus VAT. We lost so much money.
I did try and tell you this from the start. I wasn't even being ambiguous. Yeah, I was just like, don't fucking do it. And you didn't listen. I didn't. I think I was a wee bit dizzy from somebody told me that I couldn't. My English teacher told me I couldn't be a journalist. That I was shit at English, and I'm a newspaper editor. And somebody told me, don't ever start a music festival. You might as well call it Shite Fest. It'll never happen. And then Damnation was a success. So when you say that, listen, and I trust your word in this scene more than anyone, but I just felt like, you know what, but I've got a history of just people telling me what won't happen, but god damn, could you have been any more right? I mean, and they were telling you to either put you down or whatever, for whatever reason they would say that thing. I was telling you genuinely, as your friend, that it was the worst idea ever.
It was. It absolutely was. I tell you, I'm crying. It was strange as well because it's such a bittersweet business and such. Because I was on those tour buses for Damnation, for Art Tangent, for fucking tour. I mean, the whole reason it came about is you organised my stag do basically.
Yes.
For these buses, and then I fell in love with them, and then we bought them. And so everything really, other than the financial side, that I loved them. I absolutely loved them. I loved going to festivals like fucking Dillinger Escape Plan. It was great, but you're right. There was to make that work financially. You probably do need to be a head case because the people you need to deal with are so insane. I mean, the drivers alone, never mind the mechanics.
Dude, the drivers are just nuts. Like so many of the British drivers are just incredibly. I mean, they're just unbelievable. I'm speechless how some of them get the work. And don't get me wrong, there are some good ones. I mean, there really are. But damn, there are some terrible ones. Okay. And just offensive people.
Yes, I mean, well, did you know Chop, the driver, Matt, the driver that was involved in my stag do, and then why not? He had to be Welsh guy with a mullet.
Yeah, Welsh guy with a mullet and a fucking tattoo around his cock. Yeah,
it's fucking mental.
Fucking lunatic. Yeah. We had him on a soil tour once. He was I asked never to have him again.
I'm pretty sure he drove most nights absolutely fucking bladdered.
Oh yeah.
which is terrifying, even more when I got referred back to being in those bunk beds that already feel like coffins. That's with no security. So wrap it up. Again, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Look, I'm fucking delighted you beat COVID. I'm delighted you exist as a person in this industry. You're a fucking hero. Tell me a wee bit about anything. I mean, the floor's open. Tell me about your PA business. Tell me about a story. I don't know, however you want to round this off.
We started, myself and Ben Hammond, who I referenced earlier. Great front of house guy, really good friend of mine, one of my best friends in the business. Last year, we decided to start a small PA company in York because it was a good idea. We weren't expecting what has happened to happen, and it was that first year was really successful for us. So the first 8 months before March came and everything went to shit, we had like 300 grand's worth of business on the books for this year. Which for a small PA company like us, there's just a few of us, that was fine. That would, would have made good money, would have kept everything ticking along nicely. But we took a small warehouse out, like 3,000 square feet, I think it is, to store the gear. But because obviously everything stopped, we've actually converted it into a production facility where you can, like bands that are doing live streams, go and do that there instead. So Ben is he's a really clever guy, and he realised that we weren't going to get any work this year with the PA stuff, so he's just gone and done this basically all on his own. He's brilliant. That business, what he's done, will mean that our business will survive to next year, and then hopefully everything clears up and we carry on just building that. We just want to build it slowly. It's like that's more an investment for my kids. I don't want it to be like ad lib or SSE size. We don't have millions of pounds worth of gear, but we want a business which will just turn over and earn good money every year without too much effort.
Yeah. What's the name for folk that want to get involved?
It's called Rock Tech Events.
Okay. Magic. Anything else you want to add to this? Absolutely wonderful.
No, I'm just pleased that you finally hit the bottom of the barrel when you gave me a call, mate. That's all. I'm pleased that you could scrape that far.
Look. See, after, as I said, the 3 episodes ago, it was me cancelling my festival. And then we were talking about like sexual harassment of women in fucking metal. And then we were talking to Dennis the Ghost Bath, who describes his music as fucking suicidal black metal. I was like, I needed a friend. I needed somebody to come on here and shoot the shit with, because the whole point of the podcast was like, okay, we can get in about the weeds, about the business, but it's like, I mean, we're not millionaires. We're in it for the love of doing it.
Yeah.
I also want to have a wee bit of fun, and fuck me, man, you're a hero in this business. It was weird as well when I stuck it up earlier, because I tagged your name in it. there was all these other folk for the industry, people for Skindred and fucking people for different, like, oh, I like and love them. Like, I've been in this industry for 15 years and I don't get that love. I can barely get it.
I've been so lucky. Bands like Skindred, working for those guys, I think I did on and off 4 years with them. They're brilliant people. Aria and Mikey, Benji, Dan, great guys. And when they had Sturgis as well, like their DJ for a while. I still speak to Sturgis a lot. I still speak to all those guys. Awesome people. I've been so lucky to work. I mean, first off, to have my own band be as successful as it was, which I never expected, and then to go on from there and work for a ton of really cool people. I've been exceptionally lucky in my life.
And you deserve it, mate. Listen, all the bullshit, all the joking aside, I've dealt with 300, 400, 500 bands now, 300, 400, 500 tour managers and everybody in between, and you are the nicest motherfucker in rock music. People say that about Dave Grohl. They have not met you, and let's leave it at that. All right, look, I'm desperate. I'm desperate to see you next year. God, let this shit pass and we can get back to what we do best. All right, pal?
Let's hope so. I'll be there. If I'm not anywhere else in the world, I will be at Damnation 2021.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, Gab.